It all started innocently enough. My friend, Sarah, was planning a trip to Italy with her boyfriend, Mark. They were looking for an Airbnb in Florence, and she asked for my help. I love looking at travel photos, so I happily agreed. We spent hours scrolling through different listings, oohing and eyeing at the charming apartments and picturesque views. Then we stumbled upon one that looked perfect, a cozy little place with a balcony overlooking the Arno River. The photos were beautiful, showcasing a clean and modern interior. But as I zoomed in on one picture, something caught my eye. It was a photo of the living room. In the background, on a bookshelf, I saw a framed picture. It was a little blurry, but I could make out two people in the photo, a man and a woman. The man looked like Mark, but the woman wasn't Sarah. It was a woman I'd never seen before. I brushed it off initially, thinking it might be a relative or an old friend. But as we continued looking through the photos, I started noticing more things. A woman's scarf draped over a chair. A pair of women's shoes by the door. These small details started painting a different picture. A picture that suggested Mark wasn't just traveling alone or with a friend. This Airbnb was clearly shared with someone else. And a woman. I didn't want to jump to conclusions, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. I showed the photos to Sarah, trying to be as casual as possible. "Hey, who's that in the picture?" I asked, pointing to the framed photo on the bookshelf. Sarah squinted at the screen. I don't know," she said, her voice filled with confusion. "It kind of looks like Mark, but I don't recognize the woman." The color drained from her face as she realized the implications. We spent the next few hours dissecting every photo, searching for more clues. We found more inconsistencies. A second toothbrush in the bathroom. Women's clothing in the closet. It was becoming increasingly clear that Mark wasn't being entirely honest about his past. Sarah confronted Mark that evening. He initially denied everything, saying the photos were old and that he had traveled to Florence with a group of friends a few years ago. But Sarah pressed him, pointing out the recent dates on some of the photos. Finally, he admitted the truth. He had been in a relationship with another woman a few years prior, and they had stayed in that Airbnb together. He claimed it was all in the past and that he was deeply committed to Sarah. Sarah was heartbroken and furious. They had a long and difficult conversation, and ultimately, they decided to postpone their trip to Italy. I felt terrible for Sarah, but I was also relieved that she found out the truth before they went on their trip. It was a difficult situation for everyone involved. While the Airbnb photos exposed the past relationship, they also brought up the question of whether Mark was really over this woman and whether there could be a future for their relationship. But what bothered me the most was the picture of the other woman looked so familiar, but I could not recall from where I know her from. If you enjoyed this story, please like, share, and subscribe to see more videos like this. There were a couple of unresolved questions in the story that we might never be able to answer, but who knows?